It seems that Taiwan has finally come to its senses. Next year's defense budget has surpassed 1 trillion Taiwan dollars for the first time in history. That's about 48 trillion Korean won. They showed strong resolve, declaring that if the Chinese military lands, all of Taiwan will become a living hell. First, let's discuss the defense budget. For the first time, Taiwan's defense budget topped 1 trillion Taiwan dollars. The executive yuan plans to propose a 16% increase for 2027 compared to this year. The budget plan, to be released on the 20th, is expected to exceed 1.1 trillion Taiwan dollars. Like this year, it is expected to surpass 3% of GDP. Taiwan has already stated that it will spend 5% of its GDP on defense by 2030. President Lai Ching-te is very interested in the modernization of the Taiwanese military, and according to President Lai Ching-te, he emphasized that he would push for defense reforms and build whole-of-society defense resilience, and also stated that he would raise Taiwan's self-defense capabilities by ensuring that the defense budget reaches 3% of GDP or more. The Taiwanese military is actively training. Currently, Han Kuang exercises are being conducted throughout Taiwan. In these air defense drills, operations are carried out continuously for 24 hours without any prior script. The drills will run for 10 days until the 14th, simulating a scenario where, under the guise of a large-scale joint exercise, the Chinese military completes its invasion preparations and then starts crossing the Taiwan Strait. President Lai Ching-te participated in drills, simulating a Chinese military decapitation operation against him, and personally joined evacuation training. The presidential office stated that this year's National Defense Combat Command and Government Continuity Training is intended to check the government's command system, cooperation, and emergency response system, so that the government can function normally even in a crisis situation. In fact, since there are ongoing discussions about the possibility of the Chinese military carrying out a decapitation strike targeting Taiwan's leadership, it appears that Taiwan has also conducted evacuation drills in response. In addition, they made the training more practical by directly blocking various bridges and ports. Furthermore, local governments also participated in large numbers, conducting urban resilience training. Through this, they directly carried out resident evacuations, transported the injured, and operated underground hospitals. In 14 central and northern cities and counties, they intentionally slowed data speeds for 30 minutes to test their response to communication disruptions. On top of that, Taiwan is currently preparing what's called the Hellscape operation. They are preparing an operation to turn the entire island of Taiwan into a hellscape in the event that Chinese forces land. To achieve this, the Taiwanese government aims to produce 100,000 drones per month by 2030, and for the military to secure more than 210,000 aerial and maritime drones. With a simple calculation, even if only 10% of the 210,000 drones are actually deployed for strike missions, that would amount to 21,000 drones. Taiwan is using lessons from the wars in Ukraine and the Middle East to improve its military. They are also considering a method of relentlessly sending drones during the Chinese military's landing process to prevent the landing itself. To this end, Taiwan recently established a new coastal combat command, which will also actively use drones to deny any landing attempts. However, what Taiwan needs to prepare for is not just the Chinese military's landing operations. China might not send large-scale troops to Taiwan right away, but could isolate Taiwan by blocking sea and air traffic. Due to its geography as an island in a prolonged war, maintaining supplies of energy, raw materials, food, and goods from outside becomes a critical issue. If China controls sea and air routes around Taiwan or disrupts major ports, it could directly impact Taiwan's military facilities, civilian economy, and industrial facilities. Energy supply is crucial because Taiwan relies heavily on imported energy for power generation. Any maritime transport disruption could impact electricity production. Unstable electricity could disrupt factories, communications, finance, transportation, and vital services like hospitals. If port functions are restricted, companies will struggle to get raw materials and face major disruptions to movement in and out. If China blockades Taiwan, it could weaken Taiwan's war efforts by pressuring its economy and logistics, even without directly attacking military sites. For this reason, Taiwan is preparing not only for a situation where Chinese forces land, but also for a scenario where supply chains connecting it to the outside world are cut off. When war breaks out, it's important to have powerful weapons, but it's also crucial to be able to continuously secure necessary fuel, ammunition, food, and medical supplies. The reason Taiwan has recently been inspecting both civilian infrastructure and national functions together is also because they are taking these situations into consideration. Taiwan is boosting its military mainly because of China's increasing military threat. Recently, the Chinese military has been expanding its activities around Taiwan. Not only does China regularly conduct large-scale military exercises around Taiwan, but it is also increasing pressure on Taiwan by carrying out live-fire drills. In particular, the activities of the Chinese military have changed from being concentrated only at certain times in the past to now constantly showing their military presence around Taiwan. As a result, Taiwan is now in a situation where it has to consider the possibility that every single move by the Chinese military could actually lead to a military conflict. Recently, Chinese military activity in Taiwan's airspace has expanded further. On July 20th, it was reported that Chinese military helicopters and drones violated Taiwan's restricted airspace for the first time. Since the Taiwanese military has to continuously monitor and respond to the movements of Chinese military aircraft, Taiwan must maintain a significant level of military readiness even during peacetime. As China continues to pressure Taiwan militarily, Taiwan's higher defense spending isn't just an arms buildup but a response to the actual security situation. In addition, pressure from the United States is also having a significant impact. President Trump continues to demand that Taiwan strengthen its own defense capabilities and spend more on its defense budget. For the United States, it's important that Taiwan facing China can defend itself. Because the United States can only provide limited military support to Taiwan, there's increasing pressure for Taiwan to buy more weapons and modernize its military. However, internal political conflict in Taiwan remains a major concern. There is a heated clash between the ruling Democratic Progressive Party seeking a higher defense budget and the opposition Kuomintang, which opposes it. The Democratic Progressive Party says more funds are needed for national security, while the Kuomintang questions the government's high defense spending. The main issue raised by the Kuomintang is whether the massive budget will actually be used properly where it is truly needed. As the Taiwanese government tries to allocate a large special budget for strengthening national defense, the opposition parties, including the Kuomintang, continue to raise concerns about possible budget waste and corruption. In particular, the opposition argues that if the government allocates a large defense budget all at once, it will be difficult for the legislature to provide sufficient oversight and control. The Kuomintang does not oppose strengthening national defense, but is concerned about the government's budget proposal size and its implementation. Above all, within the Kuomintang, there are even voices saying that increasing the defense budget like this could provoke China and lead to war. In fact, last May in the Taiwanese parliament, the special defense budget, which was originally planned to be 1.25 trillion Taiwan dollars, was reduced to about 780 billion Taiwan dollars. The opposition questioned the defense budget's size and execution, prompting major changes during the parliamentary review. During this process, the conflict between the government and the opposition also intensified. Within the Kuomintang, there is criticism that the government is excessively increasing the defense budget, which is further heightening tensions in Taiwan. Opinions differ on whether raising the defense budget continuously actually lowers the risk of military conflict with China. The opposition warns the government's policy may trigger excessive military action, and these disagreements are now evident in the legislature's budget review. Because of Taiwan's political structure, the Democratic Progressive Party can't set the defense budget alone. Even if the government proposes a higher defense budget, it still requires legislative yuan approval after review. Currently, since the opposition holds considerable influence in the legislature, the Democratic Progressive Party's defense policies will also have difficulty moving forward unless they secure the legislature's approval. Because of this, in Taiwan right now, there is ongoing political conflict not only over how much to increase the defense budget, but also over who will decide on the budget and how it will be executed. The Democratic Progressive Party wants to quickly boost national defense for security, while the Kuomintang says a full legislative review is needed before approving the large budget. With both sides taking different approaches to strengthening national defense, legislative discussions will be crucial in determining the final size of Taiwan's defense budget.
Ja.